Hey guys, and welcome back to A&J Education YouTube channel. In today's video, we're discussing how to smash your Cambridge English undergraduate interview out of the park. And if you're applying for English to Cambridge, keep watching because this is very relevant to you. All right, guys. Well, we're very lucky to have Izzy back in the studio with us. Hi, Izzy.
Hiya.
Great to see you. Izzy, what makes you qualified to talk about Cambridge English interview?
Yeah, so I obviously applied to Cambridge and got in, but I think what makes me most qualified is I came from a state school background, so I did all of the preparation myself, had no help doing it. And now I have graduated and I'm tutoring in English literature and university admissions.
Yeah, and you're mentoring students for English entry. Great. All right. Well, now that we know that you are qualified to talk about English interview, what is the sort of Cambridge English interview? Because there are a lot of myths. People say the process is made to intimidate you, to kind of filter out the wrong type of applicants, and where is truth in this, and how do you approach the preparation process?
Yeah, so I like to think of the Cambridge English interview as a sort of teaching opportunity for you because it's very, very similar to how they run English supervisions. So I think it's best to approach it not as a test, but as a new opportunity to learn something about what you already know about English and what you could know, because there is one interview that's broadly about the things that you already know, and you have one unseen text taken beforehand. And then for me, there was a second interview with two unseen texts, not really in my field of knowledge. Yeah.
Okay, and how long does the interview take? And sorry, is it one interview or several interviews?
I think it depends on your college, but I had two interviews, and I think that's fairly standard.
Okay, and in terms of the preparation, Cambridge will often say you cannot prepare. Just come unprepared. We look for potential. We're not seeking to know what you know already. Has that been your experience?
Not at all. I did a lot of preparation. I did a lot of reading, so much reading. You have to submit a list of things you've read beforehand, and I read like 21 books in 2 months. I was just reading like crazy, trying to take it all in.
Yeah, especially if you're studying English. I mean, unless, if you're not, because the whole degree is basically you reading all
Absolutely.
the time. So if you're not doing that 24/7, then probably not the right thing for you.
Definitely. If you're not enjoying the preparation for the interview, you probably won't enjoy the study at Cambridge. So that's always good to factor in when you're preparing for something.
Okay. No, makes sense. And what are some of the things you do with your students when it comes to preparing for the interview? I mean, you guys can go and Google, and you can Google former Cambridge interview questions, past Cambridge interview questions. So there is a ton of those questions available. But what do you actually do with those questions? Do you practice them by yourself in front of the mirror? I mean, how do you approach it?
Well, so there are several things I do before I even get to the questions. I first get my students to make a list of everything they've read in the past sort of year and a half, anything they've studied critically or they've thought about critically. And from there, you can see what your interests are. So for me, that was post-colonial Nigerian literature. And then I get people to read around that. So say you're doing Purple Hibiscus, well, she was very inspired by Chinua Achebe. So read the book that came before that.
Yeah, I've actually met Chinua Achebe.
Have you really? Yeah. So I read Things Fall Apart, and I discovered all this stuff about, African literature and English that I didn't know before, and I didn't know because of school. And already that makes me such a more kind of qualified and interested candidate for interview. I could talk about it. I was interested in it. It wasn't scary. It was just fascinating. And then I get my students to usually, once they've read around their subjects, make sure you find out where your book fits in with contemporary context of literature and wider discussions and what effects it had, on the community. So when I was talking about Purple Hibiscus, I was talking about technology in Nigeria and literary changes. And then, so once I've done all of that, my biggest tip for being asked questions in, the Cambridge interview is they might try and back you into a corner of what you don't agree with. And if you're scared, you'll go, yeah, but that's not what you mean. So you've got to really stand up for your beliefs, because your interviewer will try and tell you, oh, so you mean this thing? And the scared person will say yes. And the person who is more likely to get in will say, no, that's not what I was saying. This is what I was saying. And that was the best tip I had before I went to my interview. And it happened to me in the interview. And yeah, it's a really good piece of advice to have, I think.
Do you think they were testing whether you really knew what you were talking about?
Yeah, and I think that sense of, even if I was wrong, being clear in my thought process and my principles rather than just agreeing with what a teacher or an admissions tutor was saying to me It's sticking to, you know, the thought process you've had and the beliefs you've had. That doesn't mean not being flexible with your thought process. You can always say, well, that might be the case. That's not what I think here. But it means not just agreeing because somebody's saying, oh, you think this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of the interview itself, because no one, you know, at school, we typically have a teacher with, you know, 10, 20, 30 students in class, and, you know, you kind of, you know, you listen in class, maybe you put your hand up, you do homework, you do your exam. Whereas at the interview, you know, you're expected to talk one-on-one and to sort of defend your argument and present your argument. So should you try and talk a lot? Should you let them ask you questions and you answer them? I mean, how much do you give short answers? Do you give long answers? Like, how do you approach that?
So it really depends on what you're talking to your interviewer about. But the advice I give beforehand is to start talking to your parents and friends about English in an academic context, which is something you won't have been used to doing. And from doing that, you'll see, well, obviously there are moments when you'll expand and you'll talk about why things are relevant, but when it's not relevant, you shouldn't speak just to fill silences. It's all very kind of purpose and logic driven, just within your realm of what you're talking about, what subject or what poem or what genre.
Cool. No, it makes sense. Izzy, just as we're rounding up this video, what would be your top 3 tips to aspiring applicants applying to Cambridge for English?
So read around your subject. Do a mock interview if you can with a teacher you don't know, so that you're not familiar with them. And finally, be passionate. That's the most important thing. I think I got in off of passion. I don't think I was the best read. I don't think I knew the most, but I am very passionate about English literature. So yeah, be passionate about what you're applying to. Great.
No, all super useful advice. So guys, please join me in thanking Izzy. Really great. And guys, if you enjoyed this video, if you found this useful, please like it and do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We spend a ton of effort into making these videos. The team in front of the camera here, the team behind the camera. So please do support us. We'd really appreciate it. But for now, all the best from us and good luck.